They served our country with pride, but as young men, they didn't really have a choice. And when they came home, it certainly wasn't the reception they were hoping for. It's been 50 years since the end of the Vietnam War. And for this group of vets, they remember it like it was yesterday.
I think the minute you start to accept that it's with you and it will always be with you, I think that's when you start to be able to deal with it.
Most Australian men who were shipped off to Vietnam in their late teens and early 20s went through it. The trauma of war and the hatred they received.
We come back and we had to change into our civilian clothes. So we sort of snuck into the country, you know, like criminals, I guess.
Sam Vecchio is president of the Australian Vietnam Veterans Association in New South Wales. His journey started the typical way. His birthday drawn in the conscription ballot.
You know, I'd never been overseas other than Manly, so what do? You just was part of either, you know, be conscripted or go to jail, so I took that option.
No one was spared. One of our biggest pop stars of the 1960s, Normie Rowe, included.
I got a call from my parents to say that they'd received the letter and yes, I had been called up.
At the time, he was selling as many records in Australia as the Beatles.
Shaking all over.
When he returned home, he and his career weren't the same.
I couldn't do again what I was doing before I was in the army. It seemed very self-serving, you know. It seemed like, hey, this is about me. Aren't I pretty? Aren't I a nice singer? It was all about me, and I couldn't do that anymore after seeing, you know, so much in the way of ordinary people having their lives blown apart by, you know, by war.
Tony Malavey flew out to Vietnam in January 1969 and served in combat with the 9th Battalion.
There's a lot of memorabilia here. Tony, is it still familiar to you 50 years on?
Yeah, there's bloody bayonets and compass and so on.
Mortar shells.
Mortar shells and all sorts of things. So
and your food rations here?
Yeah,
Army chocolate?
Tony saw a lot, but one incident is burned into his brain. One of his mates dying beside him.
Rick Abrahams was his name. And we were caught in a bad ambush. So it lasted about 30 or 40 seconds, and that was it. And he was dead, and another bloke was badly wounded. I can remember saying, if I don't clear my head, I won't sleep. And I can remember physically pushing back like that, so I could get it all out of my brain, you know, and forget. I better give you three, that bloke can count.
All three men were hit with post-traumatic stress disorder about 30 years after returning home.
I went into St John of God. I used to drink a lot, and that was part of the post-traumatic stress. I went there, I was in there for about 8 weeks. They dried me out, and I haven't had a drink since.
I had a major psychological crash, and I ended up in the psych ward here on the Gold Coast for 3 months, and then under treatment for another 2 or 3, 4 years.
Normie spent all of 1969 at war, rising to the rank of corporal as a crew commander of a tank.
You're a low rat, Ron. You really are a low rat.
His trauma was on show in front of the nation when controversial broadcaster Ron Casey disrespected his service.
What is it? What is it?
It was just one of those horrible moments, and I've got to say, you can have 11 top 10 records in your life, but just have one Ron Casey.
Slowly things started to change for veterans. Pop culture went into overdrive, highlighting the plight of the young men who returned and were shunned. There were movies and songs, one of which became an anthem of our nation. For Normie, this song was the one.
God help me. I was only 19.
It wasn't until John Schumann recorded I Was Only 19 that people started, en masse, started to realise.
What got them all through? Good old-fashioned mateship.
Out of all that, I've received an immense gift of the brotherhood of all my Vietnam veteran mates.